the few that are just getting the wrong end of the stick? Is it that we are bad at negotiating? Is it corruption?
No.
Because if someone comes to you with a deal, I would give you the infrastructure in exchange for this and that, and then we can work this out. Why is it that we cannot strike deals that are good for us because we are going to benefit from them?
Us here being?
Yeah, Kenyans, the Kenyan government. Because I don't think infrastructure is a bad thing. We could use some good infrastructure. We could use slashed periods of time. Because I like giving this analogy. Traveling to China would take you 12 to 14 hours. There are parts in Kenya that you would use a bus and use. So if I took a plane to China and you took a matatu
to West Pokot,
yes, you would take the same amount of time. So there's need for good infrastructure. Why is it that we cannot make sure that it's an actual win-win?
That's why the term cash cow becomes actually central to this discussion, because a cow, for it to actually produce milk, has to be fed. Now, we're referring to this particular cow that is constantly fed, and yet all it does is being fed. It never gives any milk. Now, you're asking the all-eternal question that we keep asking in this room.
Yeah.
We came to this understanding. There is a silent ministry in the government. It's called the Ministry of Impunity. You don't quite hear of it, but it's the one ministry that pervades every other ministry.
It's an omnipresent ministry.
Yes, when you hear of any misdeed, that's the influence of that particular ministry.
Yeah.
Because this particular project with the LAPSET, it wasn't just Kenya.
Yeah.
We had Uganda, we had Ethiopia, we didn't involve Sudan.
Yeah.
Our partners pulled out. This is...
Is it Rwanda, I think?
Yes, they pulled out. We have this tendency in Kenya to always, you start off by telling them this is what it's going to cost. But the SGR wasn't just Kenyan, please understand.
Yes.
It was supposed to go beyond.
Yeah,
the same thing as that road, linking, okay? And then we came up with what cost overruns. Somehow we came up with what had been agreed upon.
Right.
The clever people who are in positions of authority to manage these issues, the Ministry of Finance to be precise.
Yeah.
Suddenly the cost shot up.
Yes.
LAPSET cost, and the partner said, thank you.
Uganda actually said, we will not touch it until you take it all the way to the border, because they don't want any parts of it and our dennies and what have you.
Of course.
Yeah.
But why would they take it?
Why would they help you to start carrying your luggage?
It's just the thugs that we have. Kenyan taxpayers are losing billions in state land compensation schemes where brokers and speculators exploit loopholes in regulations to make a killing.
Yeah.
This comes even as the government is set to embark on another round of compulsory land acquisition in a number of infrastructure projects across the country. Of course, now we're talking about SGR. We're also talking about LAPSET. This is about how people are positioning themselves just to make money out of what is supposed to be a good thing.
It is
Forgetting the main
It's the
thing. Because
continuous
SGR ideally is not bad for Kenya, honestly. The
SGR itself is not the issue.
Yes,
it's a cost surrounding it. So if you have to buy land and then people have decided, okay, so how much are we going to sell this land for?
And even
how
if
much
you
is the
think
government
about
going to
buying
acquire
land,
this
ask
land
yourself
for?
a simple question. A very good portion of the SGR runs parallel to the old railway.
Yes, so you're not
Now,
really...
there's something called a wayleaf. When the railway had its land, it wasn't just the land on which the rail was stationed. No, it was land adjacent, meaning they understood there'd be development. Just like you have what you call road reserves. It's because planners know.
So we're going to need
We're
it
gonna
in the
change
future.
Yes,
things,
with populations increase, you're going to
Expand,
need... that's what planning, part of what planning is all about.
Right.
Now, someone comes along, you'll find, if you look at the history, that land had been sold, which belonged to the Kenya Railway. That's where it begins. It existed, someone sold it. Having been sold, it's now being bought again by the government who owned it in the first place.
And compensating.
Now, you tell me, how ridiculous can anything get?
With quite a significant increase in the percentage of the price, right? So you can imagine, obviously, it was not being rebought for what it was sold for.
No.
Of course. So that is where a lot of the money goes. This is now where you have a cow that's being fed, but all you can see is skin and bones.
In fact, if you're talking about Kenya, the only thing that you're certain about is that the cow exists. Yes, because you can see the aftermath of its destruction, right? But as to it being fed, this is the longest con the citizenry of Kenya have had to endure since independence.
And our great-great-great-grandkids will be paying for this thing.
It's a serious con, and it involves everybody. This one, no one is let off the hook here, all right?
Those who are selling the pieces of land, ask them.
Yes.
Would you sell it for much cheaper? No, I wouldn't.
No. Why?
And yet, if you look at
the National Land Commission is saying between 2013 and 2019, there were 77 projects where they were involved in compulsory land acquisition. 38 billion shillings spent buying these pieces of land. 38 billion.
and they choose. Remember, when you plan for a road or a railway, you also know the path it's going to follow.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, one of the things you must understand about, why don't we look at the SGR? A lot of the area it passes through is Savo.
Yes.
It's not even agricultural land, all right?
Wildlife.
Now, when the government acquires your land compulsorily, believe me, it can decide for you what that thing is worth. It can decide for you. And most of the land that we're talking about isn't even commercial land. And that's the truth. It's agricultural land.
Exactly.
So how do you give it this massive value that it suddenly acquires? What you will find is probably the person who owns the land, what they're paid and what is gotten for that land are two very different things.
Yep. The amount of money that enters the account, well,
Yeah.
the ends up with the person who sold the piece of land versus the amount of money that has come out of the taxpayers' coffers because this is what the same person is paying himself
Yes,
for
sir.
that land.
That's the thing.
Do you remember the analogy
So how
that
much do I need?
remember the analogy that Martha Karua gave? I really like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay? This guy takes your chicken, eats it, and when you complain, they take the claws and make soup out of it and give you the soup. And you're grateful to him for giving you soup made of claws from your chicken.
chicken.
They don't even try and add salt.
No, they don't.
No.
And you say, this is so good.
He's a kind person.
Wow.
Can you imagine? He's giving me chicken soup.
Yeah.
Your
Wow.
chicken.
Interesting story. That's
It's not only
But
interesting.
yeah, it's interesting, but then what can be done
It's a
though?
true
It's
reflection.
depressing.
How
It's
can we
depressing.
end this, honestly?
this doesn't end.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Brokers
end.
make a killing from state payments. That is on page 26 of
Yeah.
it. Same, home and away. The law is expected to substantially
Who are
reduce
these
the amount
brokers?
of time taken to complete. So, you see, all these acquisitions, roads, housing that's being done. Now we're talking about making payments. Institute of Surveyor says frenzy about government projects inflates prices.
In a minute, we're going to be talking about NHIF and how, for example, NHIF wants to go commercial, and they take the contributions that are made by individuals, the 500 shillings that you pay every month, and they use that then to subsidize international medical travel for the rich, which they should not be in the business of doing anyway. These are some of the things that we're talking about. It goes far deep
Trix
beyond what
asked
we're
the
even
question,
talking
what do you
about.
do? The first thing we do, let's unmask the demons, all right? These so-called middlemen, let's just say so and so, because they're individuals.
Call it as it is.
They're not phantom creatures who appear only at night. No, they're people who live in this country. They probably work for these ministries, and they're people who are known. Name them.
Absolutely.
Just start there.
I think
For doing what?
previously
For
we've been-
facilitating a
Well,
payment?
yes.
Yeah, but there's
Come on,
always
yes.
Benefiting,
No,
profiting.
there's a
Yes.
fear that previously
Yes.
there's a fear that has come with
Yes.
naming people, but then
Yes.
we continue to
Name.
suffer
'Cause
because
there's a
we're
lot of
not
First of
money
all,
at stake.
name the people who are responsible for these things within the ministries. These are the people responsible. You're not accusing them.
This is
These
your
are the people responsible. All right.
You know, being a broker is not an illegal business.
Oh, no. It isn't
Being
illegal.
a facilitator is not illegal.
no, no,
so
no.
why are you saying that we should shame people who are doing the right
I didn't
thing?
say shame. I said
Name.
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 Name for what purpose?
Because you want to know the people who are involved in this scheme. Because at the end of that scheme, people lose money and taxpayer doesn't get value for his money. So the people who are involved in this entire process, let us see them. And then let them tell us what it is that they actually did. If you are a broker, you
didn't
earn the
do.
money. Explain to us how it is this money arrived at you.
Okay.
Yes.
So who's doing the naming? Media? DPP? Who's doing the
The
naming?
the DP's office would claim that they try.
DPP.
And what do I call them?
DP.
Okay, DPP.
Add the other P.
The P and P. Yes. Their efforts are without doubt clear,
Yeah.
right? But the media, especially our investigative journalists, should go flat out in actually making sure that these people are named. If you are doing a good business, why should you be afraid to be named? You can easily explain what it
if
is
you're
you do.
doing their job and then there's no hint or tinge or
Whatever it is, it
anything
is fine.
of any kind of foul
Wrongdoing,
play or
yeah.
wrongdoing,
Why should you?
Then you shouldn't have a
You're
problem.
imputing improper motive on people who are doing rightful business.
Yes, if they're doing
Just
rightful
like
business,
that
then
time when
it
you
is
had the
okay.
maize candle. Maize
If
is
they're
not
doing rightful
contraband.
business, then there's no problem. This is a thing.
If it
Eric,
isn't-
you
if-
came into the studio, you did what you were supposed to do. Why should you have a problem if I
If
come and say
someone
it's
But Eric-
Eric in this position?
Eric is right. Maize
Then-
isn't contraband, but there are people who make it so. If you have farmers in the country having their maize rotting in the field, and then somebody else pays God knows how many billions for maize, which we didn't need in the first place.
So perhaps then naming would bring a platform for a discussion, and then after that we could figure out where if it's wrong
So
or
you
right,
start
that they
questioning.
can, yes, and then maybe laws can be put in place to stop some of the things that are happening or just improve, because if it's good
Naming
business
also
that is costing us, then
And naming also puts hopefully the fear in those who are doing something shady,
Pushing
who
it.
would not want to be named, to actually get their act in order. That's what naming also does.
yeah.
Apart from
Trixie
that, yeah.
thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you again tomorrow morning on KTN News.
Yeah.
Go and say hello to Michael Gitonga.
It's always a
of the
pleasure. I
Morning
will say
Express.
hello.
Keep it right here. This is Spice FM. We're broadcasting from Nairobi on 94.4. We're in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. We have been on KTN News until now. If you continue with us, the conversation continues. We'll shortly be talking about NHIF and the woes that are bedeviling the NHIF, National Hospital Insurance Fund. What exactly is happening to our insurance scheme and our fund? Where is the money going? Have we lost money? Do we need to pay more?
This is KTN News. Are you tired of things running out? Are you tired of things finishing too soon? Now there's a new dawn. We are giving you extra. Get 50% extra airtime with every top-up. That's right, 50% extra airtime for calls and SMS across all networks. Simply dial star 544 star 2 star amount hash and buy any amount of airtime and talk for longer. What are you waiting for? It's better to talk. Simple, transparent, honest. Safaricom is for you.
We are